Hey, how's everybody doing? My name's Andy Gay. As you know, we're here with tasting room conversations, as we promised, and I am here with Lisa Liberatore. Killer person, wonderful ideas, and we are so excited to have her here talking about all kinds of cool stuff. Funny story as we were talking. I mean, we grew up same town, same place, same sort of vibe. Not many years apart. You're younger than my brother, a couple of years older than me. We were like right in between. Like we are contemporaries entirely, right? Yeah,
badass people.
Cool. Yeah, doing some stuff. Yeah, and you know, one of the things I want to do definitely on this tasting room conversations is talk to people who are decidedly choosing to be part of the main scene. And that can be people who are from here who have found a way to stay. But it can also definitely be, and I definitely want to talk to people who have decided to come to Maine.
Yeah.
And like why. But Lisa, you work on some really cool projects, like some conceptual projects that are really easy to talk about. We'll touch on those, and some things that are a little bit more out of people's kind of normal wheelhouse. But how did you get here? How'd you get here? Like, how did you get from a kid growing up in Maine to doing all the stuff that you're doing now? I mean, where did a business sort of thought process come into your mindset? Where did you become an entrepreneur? Where did you become somebody that's a business accelerator and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we should take a sip of beer before we answer
it.
Cheers! Hey. Well, I was fortunate enough to stay at UMaine and get my master's in college administration. And my husband and I, at the time, the first person that got a job, that's where we were going.
All right.
And he got a job at BIW, so I found a job at UNE in career services. And it didn't take very long before I was like, this isn't for me. And he was super supportive, and he said, what do you want to do? Let's go do it.
You definitely strike me as somebody, much like myself, much like many of the generation of people that are kind of coming into their own in the state, that most of the people who are really doing things, moving and shaking, don't really fit in boxes very well.
They don't. No. I kicked ass at my job.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why I had to be there the rest of the hours, when I could be doing more things.
Oh,
I needed more fluidity in my life. I needed to be able to really change the world. And I couldn't change the world by sitting in an office or doing what I like, the things to stay busy during these sensitive times. Like, it just was not for me.
Yeah.
I don't care about vacation time. I'm going to work all the time. Even when I got out of the hospital, I came home and I asked my husband to watch my son because I needed to go down to my restaurant. Because I had to be down there. There was nothing I needed to do. I needed to be in that space. I was an entrepreneur. That was my comfort zone. Being a mom, not my comfort zone. Things have changed, thankfully, for my son's sake. But that drive, I need to find myself, and myself was not within an institution.
Yeah, and I think it's totally cool to look at those realities of who you are and what you're about.
Yeah.
And sometimes roles aren't what we expected them to be growing up. Sometimes life changes and roles change and things change. So you mentioned restaurants. Obviously, I come from a restaurant background.
Way bigger than mine. But you're cool too.
More as well. But it's great. It's great. So
all good.
How'd that happen? How'd that open up? I mean, I honestly think too though, people who love people, who love engaging with people and doing that sort of thing. Yeah. If you like food and you're into that sort of thing, the restaurant industry is a great place.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
To just always have something new and something different. You never know what your day is going to be. That sort of stuff. But
hold on. Yeah.
So, restaurant and garden. Tell me a little bit about how that all happened.
Yeah. So I had a coffee and tea company, and I had an opportunity to open a storefront in downtown Gardner. So much like any entrepreneur, you say yes and you figure out it behind, right? So across the street, this restaurant went out of business, and the building was for sale. So I did some homework, and every person that came in my coffee and tea shop, I said, hey, what do you think of burritos? Because the closest burrito shop was half an hour away.
I love burritos.
So I did customer discovery, right?
Yeah.
And I drove all around the state, and I looked at their menus. I tried to look at their, what I could see in their kitchen, what was the layout, and I created a business plan.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think it can be doable. And so I convinced my, again, husband at the time, not only do I want to open a restaurant, but I need to buy the building that the restaurant will be in. And here's why. If the restaurant fails, and I don't think it will, we still have an investment property. So, thankfully, 8 years later, the restaurant's still going, kicking so much ass.
Yeah.
Couldn't be prouder of this restaurant.
Yeah.
But it's all about being nimble, right? It's about having vision.
It is. And
having the time to do your homework.
a point you made that I'll let you keep going on that thought for sure, but like a point that you made that I think anybody who is going to watch this and thinks, hey, what am I going to learn from a restaurant person talking about restaurants? Own your building. Own your building. Because I know even how our restaurant, how Gagan's is valued, most of the value of Gagan's is the building it's in. It's just the nature of it. Like we do a lot of sales. We have a very, very healthy cash flow in business. But without owning that building, what do we have to sell to somebody else coming in? Really, honestly.
Well, and what I was able to do was I'm starting a business. I've never worked in a restaurant. Okay? Never. In my life.
Nice. Great way to start.
I got a master's in college administration.
Perfect. Sounds right.
But I love numbers. I know customer discovery, and I can make it work on paper. And I'm a hard worker.
Well, you know,
and I'm not too proud, right? I will ask for help every single day. What are we doing? Help me figure this thing out. This is what I want to do. So what I did when you own the building and you own the thing is you do a tiered rent.
Yep.
Okay, you person just coming in, and Toby Parker's was amazing when I went to Augusta. My landlord there, I didn't own that building, but Toby got it. Because I said, Toby, you want me to open a building? You want me to expand to Augusta? Here are my numbers. Let's be completely transparent. Yep. I need runway.
Yeah.
And you've got to give me that runway. If I'm going to get off the ground, because that's one of the bigger expenses besides personnel and food is the infrastructure. So help me out here.
Yeah.
And so if you can play those numbers with yourself, or you have a kick-ass landlord, there you go. You're off to the races. Yeah. And so it's just having that level of creativity. Yeah. We don't need to look at a loan or terms or anything as concrete. Everything is fluid in my world, which makes my world really interesting.
Yeah.
Because nothing is off limits.
So you started from a restaurant. You added to that. You grew that. Well, actually, you started from the tea shop.
Tea shop, sold that probably a couple weeks before I had a baby. Because I realized having a restaurant, a baby on the way, and a tea company. The baby on the way that I could do everything and it was just there was going to become a problem. So I actually had to address it at some point. And I did. And I hated giving up the tea company, but it was the easiest thing to sell. And
so you grew that, you saw that happen. When we were talking about this earlier off camera, the idea of a business ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that thought process. So from my background in ecology and environmental science, like ecosystems, one of the fundamental understandings that you need to have is that everything impacts everything, and in our world, in our natural world, but also definitely in our economic world. So, from your perspective as a startup, what was the work you were doing, and why were you doing it in this mindset of creating an ecosystem?
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to go door to door and to talk to the fellow business owners and to hear their concerns. I got involved with Gardner Main Street, and
which, by the way, really kick ass.
So
as main streets go.
Yeah.
If you don't know about the Main Street program,
Check it out.
it's really cool. Most towns of size with any amount of economic growth have a Main Street partnership scenario. Gardner's is really fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm sure you played a large part of that.
So we get city funding, right?
Yeah.
As part of it. And I was frustrated outside as we're fighting. Like, why are we having this fight? This should be a no-brainer. And I was like, I'm just going to run for city council. So I was like, you should. And I was like, should I say that out loud? So I ran.
Why did I do this?
I ran. And I
Awesome.
won.
Good for
I
you.
beat the person that had been, the older person that was very well connected. I beat him, and not by many votes.
Yeah, nice.
So I had the opportunity to be on city council. I had the opportunity to be the president of Gardner Main Street, because guess what? If you want to change this beautiful, amazing downtown, this asset, then you need to care and you need to step up.
And you need to be willing to change.
You need to be willing to change.
Yeah.
You need to be willing to hear people and to recognize the economic reality. I mean, I had a fiduciary responsibility to Gardner Main Street, to the city of Gardner, but I also saw the potential. And you need to hear those ideas, and you need to understand how to balance innovation with history and with budget. And I was very fortunate to have those opportunities in a size community where I could do all of those things. Because you can't do that in New York City.
No.
You're just nobody there, right? And to be into Gardner, and thankfully, again, my ex-husband, his family was from there. So using his name got me a lot of credibility, right? Like, I wasn't this outsider.
Yeah.
I actually had ties to the region. I respected the culture.
Yeah, yeah. No, I that's always something. This is a whole other conversation we can have that would go very, very long. Because for me personally, I've been very interested in ways to even more impact the community. And one of those ways I've been very intrigued with local politics from the perspective of just getting involved and adding new perspective and those sorts of things. But we're in such a culture right now, politically, where I feel like my bigger important perspective is for the people who have come to work for our company and those sorts of things. And the political scene can be so divisive right now that I struggle with that. But you found a way to balance it all, make it all happen.
We didn't do it by parties either, in
Right,
Gardner,
and that
right?
helps.
It was I ran as
That
me,
helps,
and
yeah.
nobody knew what my.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very clear once you were sitting on the council how you leaned, but there was no D or R next to your name.
Yeah.
So there was a level playing field when we had these conversations. That it was.
I'm just a person with ideas.
And ideas.
Yeah.
And I'm just.
I think that's a healthy
Here's
place.
where I'm going, and here's my vision, and.
I hope we can get back to more of that.
It would
in
be
our
good.
world now,
It would
right?
be really
I mean,
good
come
just
on.
to look at the people and not the politics. Yeah.
So in setting up a business ecosystem thought process
Yeah.
in your world, you are part of a really cool brick and mortar scenario in the Bangor market right now with Covert.
Yeah.
And that is a very different ecosystem, very different business model, very different focus than we've seen. What do you do then? What is that?
What it's Covert?
Yeah, just for.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked. I know.
Yeah, no, it's good.
What is it?
So Covert is a co-working space
Yeah.
in downtown Bangor, and it's an opportunity for people with remote workers need a place to work, or
Yeah.
entrepreneurs need a place to work. It's a flexible work model.
Yeah. So these spaces are becoming more and more normalized. I mean, when you go through the world beyond Bangor, you hear a lot about these co-working spaces.
Gardner had one.
Yeah, where people
Worked before, yeah.
where people have their space, but they don't have a full-on storefront.
You don't have the overhead,
100%.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Lisa and I were talking about this before, and I think that's so telling of where the world is right now. In that some of these milestones that used to be barometers for success of a business person, of I have my own office and I have my placard out
Yeah.
and I have my name on a wall somewhere out in the. That's not that important to me, even though as funny as that sounds, with my name on a company and my face on a truck and things like that. Like,
No big deal.
you know, but it's that stuff. My daughter cares way more about that than I do. She wants to be famous like Daddy someday. I'm like,
My son too. Here we
you can
go.
do way better than Daddy. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's it.
And
That's what we gotta do, though. We
you
gotta
know,
lay that groundwork.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of these spaces as, especially a place where people who are entrepreneurs who are trying to change the face of Maine's economy
Yeah.
in many ways, have the space to do what they need to do, but don't have the overhead and the burden of paying a fixed cost that they don't need to have, and also can share ideas.
Yeah.
So when you work in that space
We
often,
do. I'm so thankful for that space.
what to you is the highlight of a co-working space?
Yeah.
Cohort and many others.
Yeah. So I wrote a book,
Okay, cool. We'll plug the book.
Power of Transparency.
Okay, cool.
I wrote the book because I had an author who was a member say, Lisa, your story is incredible.
Yeah.
You tell your story.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, for those of you who are watching this, like the amount that we're able to cover in these few minutes that we're talking, as you can tell, we're just barely touching the surface of all this stuff.
Life is great, right?
Yeah, so
So-
read the book.
So I wrote a book, and
Why
I
wouldn't
couldn't. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Right? If somebody tells you to do something, you're like, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I've opened a restaurant. I've done lots of crazy things. Let's just add a book to the the collection. I couldn't have written the book without a co-working because I had people to bounce the ideas off of. I had the graphic designer right there. I had the person that wrote my intro. I had an author, award-winning author in the space that was like turned into my mentor. Like I had access to all these people I would never have access to if I was sitting in my house or I was sitting in an office, wherever.
It sounds to me like this co-working space has the potential,
Yeah.
when it's right, to literally break down the walls that we need to figuratively break down to make our communities these ecosystems
Every single wall.
that are
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah.
That we look and our company is based on community, local, quality, family. Those are the big pillars, and for us, that local community is a scenario where we strive to be as connected as possible, and I think we're seeing in Maine's economy more and more growth to that connectedness of entrepreneurs and those sorts of things. But I think you, like I, see that there are also some things lacking in that model. We talked earlier about how good it is that we're seeing these entrepreneurs and startups happening. A lot of crafters, a lot of, in my world, makers and things like that. It's great. A lot of those are companies that, as we talked about off camera, move dollars around. They keep money in the state. They keep a vital ecosystem and infrastructure in the state. But what are we doing? And what are you doing, particularly? And this is a leading question, if you hadn't noticed. To try and bring some new visions for businesses and new business leaders and new thoughts like that into our state.
Yeah.
Particularly with the Scratchpad. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Scratchpad's amazing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about it, and we'll put links on this to everything so people can contact you and get more and that sort of stuff, because this is bigger than just a couple more minutes of conversation. But tell me about Scratchpad.
So Scratchpad is an accelerator. We work with companies that have $100 million market or plus. So
It's bigger than mine.
bigger. It's good, right?
But why not?
This is awesome.
Right?
These
Why not?
people have technologies, they have innovations, and they're going to compete at a national or an international level. And in order to do that, they need outside money. They have to. Maine has Maine Angels, and we have MVX, so we have some funding mechanisms. MTI is amazing.
And if you guys don't know what these
Huge
things are, shoot us a message.
Yeah.
We're going to put some connections on these things. There's a lot of stuff happening in this state to make Maine a front runner for the way the United States' next economy is going to go.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we are Maine Brewers Guild. This is a shameless plug for this. We have set ourselves up that we want to be one of the model industries for Maine's next economy. And part of that is we see that part of Maine's next economy will be an infrastructure of businesses that are local businesses that hold money that comes in local.
Yeah.
But then also we need to, and there are lots of people like Scratchpad and others that are pulling the potential to pull money in, pull people in. We had this conversation
Yes,
too.
we did. All good.
That
Yeah.
we need to see Maine open up and physically open up and in our minds open up. That being from away, even though we're both Maine kids, like we need to be welcoming to the next thoughts. And,
We do.
And Scratchpad is this accelerator that opens up
Yeah.
people who have thoughts and says, come be a part of what we're doing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So from a functional perspective,
Sure.
I asked you this question. Scratchpad works with people. What is the in a nutshell success of what you do? Like what is it that Scratchpad is going to do to take somebody and say, boom, we're going to put you in the system and we're going to be successful because X, Y, and Z happen.
Yeah.
So explain that. What
Okay.
100% what you do.
100% what we do.
Moving
So
people from idea to
so you have a company that has an idea and understands their market and understands the enormity of what they're trying to succeed to do, right?
yeah.
So I got an idea. I kind of know who my customer is, and I know that I'm gonna like kick ass at a nationwide level. That's what we know.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool.
We have a lot of those people.
We got a
in
lot
our
of those
state.
people.
We have a lot of those people who want
Yeah.
to live in our state.
All good,
Yeah.
right? So what we do as a program, and we say, okay, that's awesome technology right there, and I see where you want to go, and I'm going to help you get there. And we help to build out the business behind the technology, behind the innovation. Because what you have is a lot of very brilliant minds as it relates to technology, but they are not ridiculously educated or knowledgeable on how to run a scalable company.
Yeah.
How do you go and how do you get that $3 to $5 million that you need to double your revenue? And all of a sudden, you're going from a staff of 2 to a staff of 10. What does that look like? And you have a board, and you have investors that are wanting their money back.
Yeah.
They're making sure that you're reaching the milestones.
Yeah.
So we are able to provide them with the knowledge and the roadmap and the mentors and all of the pieces to help them to have the best chance at success.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's needed in this state.
It really is. And,
Yeah.
And we talked too that Brewer was a mill that lost the mill and struggled for some times economically, and there are many towns throughout our state that have done that. And for a long time, we've been thinking, how can we use our natural resources to come back into prominence? And I think in some ways, not that those days are over, there are still opportunities, there are still things that will happen in those traditional sort of business settings. But now we're looking from a perspective, Maine's next economy is going to be one that has this integration of crafters and producers and local storefronts and main streets and that sort of level of business ecosystem. But then the bigger players that are going to come in are going to be probably much more technology based and much more, on that production based, but in a different sort of mindset and a different sort of level, and certainly playing in a world that has changed quite a bit.
Our natural resources are the University of Maine, Husson, the hospital, the airport. Our natural resources are no longer the trees in our backyard. 100%. And so if you look around...
And I'd add to that the people with ideas.
Oh my gosh, the people are amazing.
The human resources in our state are...
We have the infrastructure to be so vibrant. We have the ingredients for success.
Right.
You don't need to go to Boston. You don't need to go to Silicon Valley. We have the raw materials, right? Like we have the gems there.
And Bangor now has the culture.
Yeah.
It now has the local spots. It's now got the shameless plug. It's got the brewing scene. It's got the vibe. All that sort of stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And now we are primed and ready with.
And so our program's going to help pull these people, pull these things together. Say, okay, you've got this awesome idea. I'm going to show you how to utilize all of these things around you that you don't understand how to put together.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're looking at $100 million markets, you're looking at these really complex businesses, there's a lot of puzzle pieces. And so you need someone that's like, I got the master key. To the best of my knowledge, I'm going to help shepherd you. And I'm going to introduce you to people that will help you clear those roadblocks. You know Andy? He's got a ton of people underneath him. You want to talk about human services and managing cash flow and projection and all of those stressors? You are not alone. There's other people out there, and it doesn't matter the industry because the skill sets are the piece that we're looking at. It doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't matter the industry. It doesn't matter the exact business. You don't have to copy somebody else's business. No.
You have to understand pieces and parts from everybody's thing. That business ecosystem and thought process again. So
it's a transferable skill,
it is.
right? It's understanding.
Yeah.
So yes, I have a lot of small business experience, but you ever managed a bunch of staff and you manage inventory and your margins are like this and you're wondering how you're going to make it to the next pay period? You take that and you duplicate it, okay, I understand where you're coming from. You just got a couple more zeros. But here's how you need to think about it. And don't be too proud. Like, let's have these conversations. Let's pull in the people that know it.
A couple more zeros. I've said that in conversations. Honestly, I've said that in conversations with people in both directions. In very concrete thought processes. For us, in our industry, even keeping it just very, very linear. You look at some of the breweries in our state. I mean, I look at like an Allagash that's just a rock star. It's nationwide. We do really well in the state of Maine. They do really well throughout the nation.
Yeah.
They're just a couple more zeros bigger than us. That's what that is. And they're fantastic on when I am thinking about growth and thinking about stepping up, asking them a question and learning something new from somebody who is a couple more zeros bigger. And there are so many great breweries that are startups, that are small town little things so far that sometimes look up to us at Gagan's that say, well, you're a couple more zeros bigger than us. And that's such a thing. Like, we need to break down those barriers that we feel like it's not quite exactly what I'm doing. Well, no, it's not quite exactly what I'm doing, but maybe you're only a couple zeros away. Maybe you have a perspective that fits in the picture of what this other person is doing. And I think places like Scratchpad, and on the micro level, places like the Go For It will really get those juices flowing, get people talking. We're gonna put links to everything. Give you an opportunity to get in touch with Lisa. She's a rock star, as you can tell. Thanks for having a beer with me.
Thanks, this was so fun. Yeah.
Take some real conversations. That's what we're gonna be doing. So, cheers.
Cheers.